Hi, my name is Marguerite Hemmerdinger, and this is my project, Singing the Human Connection, that I have been working on with my research mentor, Dr. Gardner. Music can be found in some way, shape, or form in nearly every human civilization across time. While that does not necessarily make music a universal language, there's something unique about music, and singing specifically, that it has a place in every culture. My research explores the connection in singing through individual experiences had around the world. This topic sparked my interest after studying abroad in Valparaiso, Chile. I'll begin my story with the first and hopefully last time I was kicked out of an audition. I did some research about conservatories that were in the area I was studying, and I had a certain expectation about what an audition would look like, what my lessons would look like, based on my experience I've had here and in my life in the United States so far. And I expected that there would be a piano and maybe a classroom or a studio, recital hall, with a teacher maybe at the piano or an accompanist giving feedback or writing notes. However, when I walked into this building, which first of all does not look like any conservatory I've been to here, my expectations were thrown out the window. There was no piano, there were tons of people in a room, and there was a teacher tucked back in the corner in a desk writing notes. And before I even sang one note, they asked me to leave because when they found out I would only be there for 6 months, they said that's not enough time for the conservatory here. We expect you to study for multiple years. And though I at first felt upset and rejected, I realized after the fact that it was because I did not speak the cultural and musical language of the place I was studying in Valparaiso. So I didn't understand that cultural differences could extend to something like voice lessons. This oversight on my part sparked my curiosity. What are voice lessons like in other places? What do other people experience in solo singing lessons, and why do people sing? I interviewed singers with experiences in Chile, Italy, Ontario, Montreal, and Switzerland, and the US. My research questions included what led them to want to study singing or teach singing, what was the logistical setup of their voice lessons, what sort of repertoire genres do they sing or assign to students, and also what is important to them about singing. It's important to note that each individual experience is not meant to represent the entire culture or country, but rather as a way of comparing individual experiences had around the world. So let's start with Paula. Paula is a Chilean singer. She studies voice in university and in choir. She chose to sing because she's always loved music. She's played the guitar, the ukulele, but what she loves about singing is the text. She loves the text because as singers, we have the luxury, the privilege, and the responsibility of communicating with an audience through words, unlike instrumentalists. And so I connected with her right away on that because I think that's such an important thing to take note of. When I asked her about how her voice lessons were set up, she says that her voice lessons are in a group setting and the teacher teaches from the piano in a recital hall type space. They usually sing art songs and folk songs in Spanish and sometimes in English, and her favorite songs to sing are folk songs. Next, I'm going to jump to Canada to talk about Dr. Kavina. Dr. Kavina is a countertenor who sings all over the world. He chose to teach voice because he grew up in a musical family. He took voice lessons, piano lessons, and violin lessons growing up. And when he meets a new student, he likes to discuss their interests, musical and non-musical, and find out a bit about why they're there before they sing. And then he uses those interests to assign repertoire, and he uses that to guide what they do in the lessons. And he prefers to assign repertoire that's in the native language of the singer to allow for a deeper understanding of the music. He also taught and studied in Switzerland. When I asked him about the differences between singing in Canada and singing in different places in Europe, he said that the main difference was that deeper connection. We often sing in Western culture a lot of music that comes from Europe, from Germany and Italy. And he said, for example, when he sang Mahler's Fifth Symphony in Germany, with German singers, it was a transformative experience emotionally because those singers really knew and understood that text and that culture of that piece. And even though my passion is singing music in different languages to try and get insight and gain understanding of different cultures, I can really appreciate this view because I think it is something to note that you can have a deeper connection with something that comes from where you come from. I also interviewed my voice teacher and research mentor, Dr. Gardner. She grew up in Ontario, singing in choir and taking piano lessons. She focused on studying vocal performance in university, and only after she graduated did she discover her love for teaching voice lessons. And one thing that I thought was interesting is she said she learned a lot about her own voice through teaching others, and had that deeper connection in her body and could share that with the students. When I asked her about repertoire, she says in Canada there's the Royal Conservatory of Music book system where voice teachers take pieces and they collect them for different levels of voices. So that's a resource made by voice teachers for voice students. And she also emphasized the importance of choosing diverse repertoire, representing composers of color, LGBTQ composers, female composers, essentially more composers than dead white men. My last two interviews were with Kirby and with Agnes. Kirby is a voice teacher in the US, and she studied in Italy during her undergrad. One important difference that she noticed from her lessons in the US and her lessons in Italy was the schedule. In the US, her lessons started on time and they ended on time, no matter what. In Italy, things took the time they took, as she described it. So if they needed more time on a piece, they took more time on a piece. If they were done early, they were done early. And she also said that the most important thing that she took back with her from those lessons in Italy was the focus on style and character. It was very important to her Italian voice teacher that she's conveying the story correctly. And so that is something that she took back and teaches to her students now. And Agnes studied under very different circumstances. She went in retirement to study Italian at a language school and went back and forth from the US to Italy over 8 to 10 years. And she took voice lessons because she loves to sing, and she wanted to learn Italian art songs the Italian way. And I asked her what she meant by the Italian way, and she gave me an answer very similar to Kirby's, and that's singing with style, conveying the story. That was so very important to her teachers and to her. And I saved the best part for last. When I asked this question to each participant, there was a shift in the conversation. People started speaking more passionately about their art. I asked them, how would you describe your philosophy about singing? Why is it important to you that people sing? Why is it important to you that you sing? And so to finish my presentation, I'm going to play you an excerpt of what each participant said.
Y cantar es muy, muy importante. Es algo que yo siento que en realidad la música en general, yo creo que para todos la música, pero para mí el canto es importante y siento que es parte de mi vida porque mueve y remueve cosas muy potentes, como muy fuertes desde el interior. En el fondo conecta con cosas muy profundas porque uno lo relaciona también las canciones, las melodías, las letras, con experiencias también de la vida. Para mí es una liberación, es parte de mí.
For me as a person, the awareness of my experience being a human in my body, I think, is something that singing has brought me that I don't know if I would have found if I wasn't a singer. Maybe I would have found it in a different way, but how do I feel? Am I breathing? What do I feel about this poetry, and how do I want to express it? Just being in touch with my feelings and my physical body, I think. And I think that's really important. I think we all can benefit from being aware of who we are in our bodies. So that, but then I also think we get the privilege of expressing beautiful poetry, text, and a whole range of feelings to audiences or whoever's listening to us who maybe don't have the same tools to express that, but they have all those feelings. And it feels both like it feels good as a singer to say out loud these words that express, the human experience, and then also to know that the audience is taking that in and somehow, that's helping them process being a human in the world.
One of the biggest reasons I love singing right now in my life is because I feel like it really connects me to my body, like myself. Like I feel very mindful and embodied when I'm singing, and I think I've always been really attracted to the balance of science and art that is singing to make meaningful artistic music.
The communication part, I think the words and how to get the meaning across. I mean, the music, of course, is important too, but the words are so very important. And I think that comes across with the Italian teachers. I mean, they want those words to come out and the sense of the song. So I guess it's a communication thing, really.
The singing moment, like the performance aspect of singing, facilitates connection. That's a special kind of connection between singer and audience. But the process of learning to sing is also rich with connection and relationship. And that's quite special. We want to explore a really safe and life-affirming teaching. But I really mean the pedagogy, like literally how we think of vocal technique and repertoire learning. I think all those things can support health. I think we can just go ahead and heal the world.
So I hope that you can see the continuity between those interviews and how interesting it was to find the human connection between each singer. You can see the threads of talking about singing and how it connects them with their body, how it connects them with other people, and how it connects them with the text and the poetry. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Are there any other countries that you'd like to get in touch with, or any other cultures that you'd like to explore?
Yes, most definitely. I would love to represent more of the eastern part of the world. I was slightly limited just by who I could get in contact with, and so I'm always looking to expand that. I presented at the global conference yesterday and tried to make some connections with people there to expand, but yeah, great question. I would love to expand that. Yes?
Is there a next step with this?
After
the interviews, after compiling all of these different opinions and experiences, is there a next step?
For me, I think I have two different directions that I'd like to go with that. Every interview opened up a million more questions for me. I would like to, like Zach asked, I would love to expand to other parts of the world and get a more diverse, just further input on that. I also was sparked my interest in translations and the value in translating, and also the detriment in translating, and what can be lost and what can be gained. So that's probably the next direction that I would like to go with the project. Yeah.
I know you said that you like using song for you to, connect and learn about different cultures and things of that nature. How do you think you would take this project if you had the opportunity to teach a lesson in it, if that makes sense? So how do you think you would go about that if you could?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm actually a teacher, so that's a perfect question. Through my recital, I sang in about 8 or 9 different languages, and the thing that I loved most about that was getting in contact with people who spoke that language and getting help with the translation, help with the pronunciation. And so I think that in a class setting, if I was teaching a lesson, I would try to do the same thing. I would pick a piece and find somebody who's from that culture of that piece, who speaks that language of that piece, and I would connect them with my students through Zoom or one of the other many ways we can connect these days, and bring those together and facilitate more of that connection. Thank you.
since you said you're a teacher, do you feel like beyond connecting to other people from cultures that this is going to increase the variety and the repertoire that your future students will perform, sing, etc.? And really, I'm kind of answering your own question, I'm not trying. Just because, like you said, music is not just old dead white guys.
Yes.
Right? There's so much more that isn't accessed in our educational system. So where do you see that fitting into your teaching? Because I don't know if your voice band, probably chorus.
Yes. Yes, vocal music education is my specialty, and definitely I plan to incorporate as many different pieces as I can, knowing that a lot of times it takes building that trust with students because they prefer to sing in their own language most of the time. They feel most comfortable in that, and so fostering that curiosity through maybe zooming in connections or getting them more engaged in different pieces and balancing that with pieces from their own culture so that they feel comfortable and also excited about exploring another culture. Great job. Thank you. Thank you.